Imagine walking into a room full of strangers. Nobody knows your name. Nobody knows where you came from. Nobody knows what you've accomplished. Nobody knows your story. And yet within minutes, people begin forming opinions about you. Not because they're shallow, not because they're cruel, because that's what human brains evolved to do. Long before civilization, before schools, before resumes, before social media, our ancestors had to make fast decisions about the people around them. Can this person be trusted? Are they competent? Are they dangerous? Are they reliable? Those questions never disappeared. The human brain still asks them every time you meet someone new. The strange part is that people rarely answer these questions consciously. They don't sit there analyzing every detail. Instead, they look for signals. Tiny signals. Small behaviors that seem meaningless on their own. A phrase, a posture, a hesitation, a habit. Most people don't realize it, but they are constantly broadcasting information about themselves. The way they speak, the way they move, the way they react under pressure, the way they handle disagreement. Everything sends a message, and often that message is far more powerful than the words themselves. This is why two people can say the exact same thing and receive completely different reactions. One person speaks and people listen. The other speaks and people immediately doubt them. The words are identical. The signals are not. One of the strongest signals people send without realizing it is excessive apologizing. Now, don't misunderstand. There is nothing wrong with apologizing when you've done something wrong. The problem begins when apologizing becomes a reflex. Some people apologize for asking questions. They apologize for expressing opinions. They apologize for taking up space. They apologize for existing. Every unnecessary apology sends a subtle message. It tells the world that you believe your presence is a problem. And people often treat you according to the way you present yourself. If you constantly communicate that your needs are inconvenient, others slowly begin to believe it. Not because they want to, because you've taught them to. Another signal appears when people feel the need to explain themselves endlessly. Have you ever noticed how confident people often give surprisingly short explanations? They make a decision, they explain it once, and then they move on. Insecure people do the opposite. They justify every choice, every opinion, every action. They keep talking long after the point has already been made. Why? Because they aren't trying to convince others. They're trying to convince themselves. And people can sense the difference. The more desperately you seek validation, the more difficult it becomes to receive it. This leads to another habit that quietly destroys the way people perceive you. Seeking permission to be yourself. Many people spend their lives checking whether everyone approves of what they're doing. Before making a decision, they look around the room. Before expressing an opinion, they look around the room. Before becoming who they want to be, they look around the room. They're constantly asking a silent question. Is this okay? But confidence doesn't come from receiving permission. Confidence comes from realizing you don't need it. The people who earn the most respect are not the people everyone agrees with. They're the people who remain comfortable even when agreement disappears. Because disagreement is not rejection. It's simply proof that two minds exist in the same room. Unfortunately, many people are terrified of disagreement. The moment tension appears, they retreat. They soften their opinion. They backtrack. They change their position. Not because they discover they were wrong, because they're afraid of making someone uncomfortable. But every time you abandon your own position to avoid conflict, you teach yourself an important lesson. You teach yourself that your beliefs are less valuable than someone else's comfort. And eventually other people begin treating them that way too. There's another signal that might be even more powerful. The inability to be alone. Modern life has made solitude feel uncomfortable. The moment silence appears, many people reach for a screen. The moment boredom appears, they search for distraction. The moment uncertainty appears, they seek reassurance. But there is something dangerous about needing constant validation from the outside world. The more dependent you become on other people's approval, the less authority you develop within yourself. And people notice. They may not consciously understand what they're seeing, but they can feel it. Human beings are surprisingly sensitive to certainty. Not arrogance. Certainty. Arrogance tries to prove something. Certainty doesn't need to. And that's an important distinction. The most respected people in any room are rarely the loudest, rarely the most aggressive, rarely the most dominant. They simply know who they are. Their actions and beliefs move in the same direction. Their words match their behavior. Their confidence comes from alignment, not performance. This is where many people get respect completely wrong. They think respect is something other people give you. In reality, respect often begins as something you demonstrate to yourself. The way you speak to yourself, the boundaries you maintain, the standards you follow, the promises you keep. Because every promise broken to yourself weakens trust. And if you don't trust yourself, eventually other people stop trusting you too. The truth is that people are judging you faster than you think. But they're not judging your clothes. They're not judging your job title. They're not judging the image you're trying to project. They're judging the signals, the quiet signals, the signals that reveal how you see yourself. And once you understand that, something changes. You stop trying to force people to respect you. You stop chasing approval. You stop performing confidence. Instead, you focus on becoming someone whose actions speak clearly enough that respect becomes a natural consequence. Because at the end of the day, the strongest signal you can send isn't power. It isn't status. It isn't dominance. It's self-respect. And people notice it long before you say a single word.